What would you do if the person responsible for hundreds of lives made a shocking and tragic decision? For the passengers of Flight 427, their journey ended in a disaster that could have been prevented. The pilot's chilling final words and a fateful decision would haunt the world forever. Before we dive into this heartbreaking story, don't forget to subscribe to Stories Unfolded. We bring you gripping tales of tragedy, inspiration, and life's lessons. Let's begin. It was a clear spring afternoon when Flight 427 prepared for takeoff. The plane was bound for its destination with 187 passengers on board, including families, business travelers, and holidaymakers. Captain David Hensley, a seasoned pilot with over 20 years of experience, was in the cockpit, alongside his first officer, Andrew Martinez. Captain Hensley was known for his professionalism and dedication. But beneath the surface, he was also a devoted father who often spoke of his love for his two children, 10-year-old Emma and 12-year-old Ben. On this particular flight, David had brought Emma and Ben into the cockpit for a quick visit before takeoff. The crew and passengers thought little of it. After all, pilots often shared such moments with their families. No one could have anticipated how this seemingly innocent decision would spiral into a devastating tragedy. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Captain Hensley made an unusual decision. He invited his children back into the cockpit, a breach of strict aviation protocols. "Just for a few minutes," he told the first officer, brushing off concerns. At first, it was harmless enough. David let Ben sit in the captain's seat, while Emma observed from behind. The autopilot was engaged, and the plane was flying smoothly. "Can I touch this?" Ben asked, pointing to the control stick. David hesitated but smiled. "Go ahead, but just gently." Emma giggled, watching her brother with excitement. It was a moment of pride for David, seeing his children experience what he loved most. Moments later, Ben accidentally nudged the control stick too hard, disengaging the autopilot. The plane tilted slightly, and alarms began to sound. "It's fine. I've got it," David said quickly, regaining control and re-engaging the autopilot. But the situation had made the first officer uneasy. "Captain, maybe it's best if the kids leave the cockpit now," Andrew suggested. David nodded reluctantly and asked Emma and Ben to return to their seats. However, the incident seemed to embolden Ben. As he left, he turned back and said, "That was fun. Can I try again later?" David chuckled nervously. "Maybe." Later in the flight, against his better judgment, David allowed Emma and Ben back into the cockpit. This time, both children insisted on flying the plane. "Okay, but I'll be right here," David said, placing his hands lightly over Ben's as the boy gripped the controls. The plane descended slightly as Ben pulled the stick back too far, triggering more alarms. David, trying to correct the situation, accidentally disengaged a critical system. "Captain, we need to," Andrew began, but it was too late. Emma, startled by the alarms, grabbed the throttle lever in panic, causing the engines to overcompensate. The plane tilted sharply to the right, sending passengers screaming as turbulence shook the cabin. "Emma, let go!" David shouted. In the chaos, David's final words were caught on the black box recorder. "I'm sorry, everyone. I thought I could fix it." In a matter of moments, the plane spiraled out of control. Despite Andrew's desperate attempts to stabilize it, Flight 427 plunged into a dense forest below. The impact was catastrophic, killing all 187 passengers and crew members on board. The crash site was a scene of utter devastation, with debris scattered over miles of terrain. Emergency responders worked tirelessly to recover remains, and locate the plane's black box. The aviation community was stunned. Flight 427 had been piloted by one of the industry's most experienced captains. How could such a disaster occur? When the black box was recovered, investigators listened intently to the cockpit recordings. What they heard left them speechless. The voices of children in the cockpit, the alarms, and Captain Hensley's chilling apology. The investigation revealed that David's decision to let his children handle the controls had triggered a series of mechanical failures. Although the first officer had tried to intervene, the chain of events unfolded too quickly to be stopped. The public was horrified as the details emerged. Families of the victims demanded accountability, asking how such a breach of protocol could have happened. "I trusted that pilot to bring my wife and daughter home safely," one grieving husband said at a press conference. Instead, he made a reckless decision that cost them their lives. The airline faced intense scrutiny, with calls for stricter regulations and better enforcement of cockpit protocols. In the aftermath, David Hensley's family faced overwhelming guilt and grief. His wife, Susan, issued a statement. David loved his children more than anything in the world, but his actions on that flight were inexcusable. "We can't undo what happened, but we hope this tragedy serves as a lesson for all pilots to prioritize safety above all else." Emma and Ben, too young to fully comprehend the gravity of the situation, were spared public scrutiny, but carried the weight of their father's decisions for years to come. The crash of Flight 427 led to sweeping changes in aviation policy. Airlines implemented stricter rules, prohibiting unauthorized individuals from entering the cockpit, no matter the circumstances. Training programs were updated to emphasize the importance of adhering to protocols, even in non-emergency situations. Pilots were reminded that their first duty was to the passengers and crew who entrusted them with their lives. David's haunting last words, "I thought I could fix it," became a chilling reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and complacency. While his intentions had been rooted in love for his children, the consequences were devastating. The story of Flight 427 serves as a tragic, cautionary tale, one that underscores the importance of professionalism, responsibility, and the weight of a pilot's role. This heartbreaking story reminds us that even small decisions can have far-reaching consequences. Captain Hensley's lapse in judgment cost the lives of everyone on board, but the changes that followed have helped ensure safer skies for millions of passengers worldwide. If this story moved you, please like and share it to honor the victims of Flight 427 and spread awareness of the importance of safety in aviation. Don't forget to subscribe to Stories Unfolded for more powerful tales of courage, tragedy, and resilience. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.